Hi, everyone. This is Susan Gerbic from GSoW. I'm here in Monterey, and we have two celebrities from the Brisbane Skeptics. They're also both a couple who have joined the GSoW project when I met them in the Brisbane Skeptic Conference in Australia this last October. This is Julie and Harald Berents, and they're visiting America, and they just happened to be in Monterey and said, let's have dinner. I know you're going to love hearing these great accents, if anything else. We'll have transcripts. No, I'm only kidding. So, what is it that you expected from GSoW? I mean, you had said that you had heard of the GSoW project when you'd visited TAM in 2014. So you'd already heard of the project. And so when I came out to speak in Brisbane this last year, you already kind of had an idea of what it was. What made you join something as crazy as this? What are you working on now? What is it you just finished? That kind of thing.
One of the things about the GSoW is you can do things in your own time and you can make a difference. And to me, that's something that's really important. I suppose when I was looking at it, I thought more of Julie because Julie's a wizard editing all sorts of things. She's edited our daughter's theses a number of times and she's good at that. And I just go along for the ride, I suppose. I've really enjoyed it. It's met my expectations of being able to update and learn about different people. And some people like Ian Plimer, who I did some work with, did some really interesting stuff, and then with climate science, I think he dropped the ball. And so I've done some editing on his page. That's an area that I find particularly interesting, and I'll continue to do more on that, climate science. I've just finished reading a book by Paul Doherty called The Knowledge Wars, and that's an absolutely amazing book. I would commend it to anyone to read. He's a Nobel laureate in immunology, and he got that in the 70s. He's now in his mid-70s. And he actually explained science and the process of science and why the science deniers are really getting it so wrong. He also talks about AIDS in his book and a number of other areas. I'm looking at updating his page when I get some time. I just finished updating Peter Boghosian's page. I found that really interesting. Probably spent more time than I should have on some of it, especially in some of the debates that he had with some of the right Christian groups. Some really interesting stuff came out of that as well. And that's what I think I enjoy, because you actually dig deeper into different people's work and get a better understanding of what they're doing. Going forward, I think I'll end up doing more work on people who have got climate science type areas to look at. And the other area is the area of vaccinations. My mother was a doctor and she actually started a lot of the child health in Canberra in the early 70s. And so that's another area of particular interest to me.
My expectation of GSoW, I guess, was, as Harald said, to do something useful in our own time. But because of my background as a librarian, my interest was in authentication of documents and references that were of real value, I guess, is one of my hobby horses. So that was one of my interests. The first page that I updated was Joseph Gelfer, and I found him really interesting, completely out of my sphere, a man who has a degree in divinity. He first came to fame looking at the Mayan end of the universe when the calendar ran out and they predicted the end of the world. 2012, yes. And he looked at that from all sorts of aspects. He edited a book where he looked at, had people talk who were from all sorts of backgrounds talking about that event. And that was very interesting. Going forward, like Harald, one of my interests is vaccination in particular. I have just been researching my family history and looking at convict history in Australia. And one of the fascinating side things I found out was even as far back as the 1820s, the doctors on the convict ships were using the convicts as live transport for smallpox vaccine. So they would vaccinate a batch of convicts as they left England, and then every so many months they would revaccinate another batch to eventually get the live lymph material out to Australia so they could vaccinate the colonists. And I just find that 1820, and they knew what they were doing. It's quite fascinating. They also did some fairly nasty experiments on the convicts with mercury cures for scurvy and other things that will be interesting to follow up as well.
Let the listeners know, what do we like to work with? What am I like to work with? How crazy is it to work for us?
So Susan is a hard taskmaster, but one of the things I really have found enjoyable about GSoW is the community, going through Facebook with the group and all of the feedback. So if you post something, you always get good feedback. You never get negative feedback, and you always get people willing to help. And that's something that's really excellent. And I think that's something you, Susan, should be really proud of, I'm sure, because that's something that you're inculcating into everyone who joins a group. And yes, it does take some time. It does take time, but you can do it at your own pace. So with the Boghosian page that I did, I probably spent a month on it, but in reality probably spent 5 hours, but it took me a month. And that's fine, and if I can do it in that time, it's easy. Others only take half an hour.
I would echo Harold's comment about community. That's definitely one of the big things about GSoW is the community. And I guess the fact that it's all over the world. So no matter what time of the day in your country you put up a question, there's always someone around that will give you an answer in a reasonable time frame. And just supportive. Everybody's encouraging. And I guess it's nice to be in singing with the choir, to have people that have the same sort of interests as you.
Maybe a few words about the Brisbane Skeptics?
Brisbane Skeptics is a fairly young group, young as in new.
Young as in young.
And young as in young, mostly too, I guess. We haven't been particularly active with them because of other interests, but in the next few years we hope to be, because Harold's now retired and we'll be more inclined to get out and go somewhere on a Friday night. But they're a really interested, enthusiastic group, and we thoroughly enjoy them.
Fantastic. It's been great talking to you both.